here we are, continuing on the pain, nervous system, aka lessons learned from tattooing series. And today I have one of the tattooers from Wholehearted Tattoo, Brian, joining me.
Good morning.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Domini
Yeah.
Anne.
So just a quick recap of how I met Brian. He's been working at Wholehearted Tattoo for how long? How long since you came in?
A little over 3 months currently.
Yeah. So we got into a conversation just as I was getting ready to go under the needles again. And Brian had all kinds of things to say about pain management. He's also an instructor on Orange Theory up in Sacramento. So he has a background in physicality as well. So we have been talking about all kinds of different directions this can go. And there were a couple where I wanted just to circle in and get your insight. Starting with people who say they have a high pain tolerance.
Mm-hmm.
Floor is yours.
Floor is mine. Okay, so my experience can go one of two ways. People that claim they have a high pain tolerance. One, it's either true, or two, it's either vibrato and not true. So the only way to find out is actually when they sit down to get tattooed.
Mm-hmm.
So as we mentioned our last talk, it takes about 5 minutes for me to truly get a feel for how the person's going to react to getting tattooed. So
Yeah.
in that first 5 minutes, yeah, I'll either see that it's true, they have a good pain tolerance, they know how to, control their breathing, understand what's happening, be calm, or pass out.
Or pass out. So yeah,
Yeah.
in between these broad ranges of spectrum, what are you looking for and what do you notice that gives you indications one way or another?
Okay. So I tend to scan their body with like more peripheral vision, right? I'm focused with what I'm doing, very intent for hours on one part of their body. So I'll take a glance and I'll see, where are their eyes focused? Are they having a bead of sweat come down their forearms? Are their fists really tense? Are they rigid? How is their breathing? Are they shaking, right? There's a bunch of little cues that I can pick up on to see how well they're dealing with the pain or not.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of and even throughout the process, as you know, being tattooed for hours, those things change, right? So you can settle into it. It gets better. It gets worse. You move on to a new area and you have to go through the whole process all over again. It's a constant process of, easing into it. Oh, wait. Oh my God. Nope. Nope. This is terrible. Oh, okay. This isn't so bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me about, like you said, waves. So we know that endorphins also come in waves, and then at some point they're gone.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk to me about that wave-like arc that happens as you're going through the process, and also give us an idea of time?
Yeah.
How long is this taking?
Okay. So, for example, just yesterday, I made a tattoo on this woman's leg. The second time I've tattooed her. It was a good, maybe football-sized tattoo. Okay, she handles pain pretty well. She was nervous. She brought a little squeezy toy, a little T-Rex to help her with the pain. So she has her things that she uses for her pain management. And we outlined it, and she was a little unpleasantly surprised by how bad it hurt. Okay, and then we added some shading. That's step two, right? And it got a little worse. And she kind of eased into it at one point. And then we got to the last part, coloring. I was watching her face, and she would have to turn away, and she would open her jaw and keep her mouth open and lock her gaze and not move or say anything. I'm like, oh, okay, that's her highest pain threshold right there. So what happens, you work on one spot and someone gets used to it. And then you move to another area, and then it's a brand new sensation all over again. So imagine you have one spot that's been opened,
Yeah.
and then you let it sit and rest for 20, 30 minutes. And then you go back and you hit it again with a needle. And then you let it rest 20 to 30 minutes and you do it a third time. So that's the wave. Your body gets to relax, realize, okay, that pain's gone. Comes back, experiences it again. It's worse. You get to relax, experience it again. So that's the wave. It's like your body is getting used to it. It goes away. Once that needle's not in your skin, it doesn't really hurt.
Yeah, that is one thing about tattooing is once the needle's off your body, it's gone.
Hmm.
So it's not like the dull throb of injury. And if I'm circling back to the different types of pain receptors, right, the A types that are really fast and the C types that are slow, um, it's that makes sense that our experience of pain will be different when it's more of like a tear on the dotted line, because you're picking the needle up every few seconds and you're getting more ink and you're depositing it back into the skin. And
Hmm.
then when you're talking about longer breaks, like 20-minute breaks, what's happening there? Because what I've experienced when I'm getting tattooed is it's kind of been like 3 hours in, unless they're doing an outline and transferring it onto my body, I don't get a 20-minute break.
Yeah. So, I mean, everyone's body's different, right? So imagine you're allergic to mosquitoes, for example, and you get bit a bunch and your skin swells up and it gets really uncomfortable, really puffy, and then you touch it and you're like, oh my God, I just, this thing happened. So same thing with your skin. So imagine you work on a patch and it swells
Mm.
and gets really angry and really sensitive, right? A bunch of blood flow to the area. It's mad.
Right.
Okay.
And
Then
so,
you go back and do it again and it's just like, you ever been sunburned really bad
yeah.
and then you jump in a hot shower and it hurts worse?
Uh-huh.
Kind of the same. Same.
Yeah. One quick question. When it's swelling up, are we talking about just blood or are we also talking about like other fluids that the body might be sending to the area? I'm
Mhm.
thinking about like plasma or
Yeah.
white blood cells.
Exactly. Plasma, lymph fluid, all those things.
Yeah.
Right. It's your body fighting off whatever is happening. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, which actually that brings us again to the other things that I wanted to ask you about. So as far as my pain management techniques, why we got into conversation was I decided to see if I could endorphin stack or endorphin switch. Because of my background in exercise, I feel like there are different types of endorphins that are released depending on the type of exercise I do. For example, running is a very different high than weightlifting, which is a very different high even than doing some type of mind body or somatic awareness
Mhm.
thing. So, because I had been experiencing the endorphins going away in previous sessions, I wanted to just see if I could do some stacking. So, I arrived pretty pumped up after
Mhm.
weightlifting. And then
Mhm.
we got talking about that.
Mhm.
And I would love to hear your feedback about how you think those kinds of things
I
work.
see. Okay, so from my experience, personal, what I've seen with, customers of mine, I always support working out before getting a tattoo if anyone is inclined, for a couple reasons, right? Like those beta endorphins, right? You go and you feel good after working out. And another thing, you have a sense of accomplishment. You've already done something nice for yourself, right? And you continue with your self care and you go get tattooed. The only thing that's unfortunate is that it hurts so much, right? And so dealing with the endorphins, you go in and say, you know, you're having your back tattooed and you worked on your lats and your back or your whole posterior chain. You really gave it everything you had. And then you had a nice meal afterwards and you feel fantastic and super relaxed and you go in and get tattooed, you're much more likely to deal with the pain better than you are if you just got into a car accident on your way in, or you're worried about what's going to happen at your job, or you didn't get the promotion, or you just got fired, you got into an argument with your partner, or you have, a health scare, there's something going on with your body. You're not going to deal with the pain as well. So as far as working out, I think it's a fantastic idea. Um,
There was one thing you said that I just want to drop in here.
yeah.
You said after you worked out, your muscles have no more fight left in them.
Yeah, basically, you got no fight left in you, right? So if you think about a lot of people, their inclination is to tense up and kind of like fight the pain, and uh, there's really nothing you can do. I mean, you've been experimenting, you can breathe
Mhm.
and you can relax. And I tell people not to fight it. It's going to happen. Just don't fight the pain. So same thing when you're working out, right? How far do you take it? You take it to the edge. Do you pull back a little bit? What's your goal for working out, right? The same thing with getting
Yeah.
tattooed. Hmm.
Yeah. And now you've been touching consistently on mind state, which is exactly where I want to go with the time we have. One last thing that I just want to interject, from my personal experience, where I was getting to at about midway through my tattooing sessions the last two times, was that I'm still unable to completely relax when the needle's going in.
Mhm.
But I began to experience incredible releases of tension after the needle got out of my skin at a certain point in time within that arc. So
Mhm.
similar to using the relaxation technique where you squeeze yourself really tightly, and then afterwards you're flooded with the release. That was happening naturally within my body as a
Mhm.
result of the input.
Yep.
Yeah. So now you already were going into mind state. Talk to us about that.
hmm So, ooh, again, it taps into like how well you know your body and how well you can relax under situations like that. You know, if you can talk yourself through it and force yourself to relax, great. If you can't and you're just having a reaction and that muscle is just tensing, it gets to a point where you can do everything you can in your power within your mind state to be okay with getting tattooed, to try and deal with the pain. Now,
Mm-hmm.
there comes a point where you start shaking, you can't relax, your breathing is all messed up, it hurts so bad, and then you just got to be done. And then you just call it quits for the day. And then you come back another time.
Yeah.
And
Your body takes over and it says
yeah.
so. I,
But when I think about the mind state, it's like when I'm coaching people to exercise, and maybe, it's like, like on the treadmill when you're running or you're outside, it's like, how long can you hold on to this pace and be okay? Can you take it right to that edge right before injury and then pull back a little bit, right? How long can you breathe while that needle is in your skin? How long can you hold still? Find that breath. You have to get into a rhythm with, the needle in your skin and out of your skin. So depending on who does it, where it is, how long it takes, where your mental state is, all those things have to gel for it to be
yeah.
a good session.
And
Mm-hmm.
then backtracking to how you are, what is it when you go in? And you mentioned like it's different if you've worked out versus if you were just in a
Mm-hmm.
car accident, if you just
Mm-hmm.
got a health scare.
Mm-hmm.
So there's how you're feeling when you're going into the
Mm-hmm.
session. Um, I'd love you to talk to us about that
Mm-hmm.
and also about what we talked about previously. If you're getting a tattoo that has an emotional attachment, what that
Mm-hmm.
means.
Gotcha. So a lot of people don't realize that, how well you slept or what your emotional state is or how your digestion is or how your gut health is, all can affect how well you sit for your tattoo, right? You don't realize it until the needle hits your skin and it forces you to be in the moment. And then all of a sudden these other things can come up, which segues into that other aspect, right? People come in for memorial tattoos or someone passed away or someone's been gone for years. Instantly, like, I can get choked up thinking about it. Yeah. There's this
Is there
thing that
a personal history
happens.
there?
What's that?
Is there a personal history there? Have you had a tattoo like that?
No, just all the memories I've had of people that I've tattooed that like
Ah,
it can bring up these, emotions in them instantly. They didn't know they had. They didn't know they were processing. They didn't know they were in the forefront of their brain. So that needle hits, all of a sudden, snap is in the front of their brain, and they're forced to deal with it.
yeah. And so there's almost like a third person in the room or an input they can't control between them and the needle and their own determination.
Hmm.
Now we have this other emotional dialogue going on.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly. So I found another thing that helps if people are willing to talk about their experience or what's happening. If I just dive into their experience and ask them those personal questions, they tend to get distracted with these things that are going on, and then they don't even realize they're getting tattooed. So,
Yeah, it is interesting. Like there's the ability to either drop into the body or if you have a strong ability to jump out of the body, not that different from meditation practices or labor, right? You
mhm.
can either go in or go out. So, you know, we could, that's, I feel like a longer discussion again that we can have. You and I had also talked about mental
Mhm.
fortitude and the ability to endure
Yes,
different types of people and their capacity to go through this for a certain amount of time.
yes.
Um, please, floor is yours.
Okay. That's a couple different things there. First thing that comes to mind is combat sports, like we talked about,
Mhm.
right? So, you know, if you're used to punching or kicking or getting hit or being choked or having some kind of experience where not necessarily forced, but you have to um, give it everything you. How do I explain it? Give it everything you have. It's like the mental fortitude to keep going in the face of adversity. For example, you're boxing and you're boxing someone that's bigger, that's stronger, that's more experienced, that has more cardio and more conditioning. Absolutely, you can go toe to toe with this person, but it's up here. How what can you do to stay in that fight? So getting tattooed, it's kind of the same thing. How long can you go with that breath and realize, it's something that I want. It's going to take a long time. I'm going to do what I need to do to handle this, regardless of how it feels. So that's one aspect. Another aspect, like we talked about, depending on your life experience and how much pain you've experienced in your life, how much physical pain or emotional pain, right? And some people haven't experienced a lot of pain, so they get tattooed, and it's an explosion of sensations that they don't know what to do. Versus people that have experienced a lot and they can sit there and just be like, oh, this is nothing. Nothing compared to what I've been
Yeah.
through.
So if you've sustained, for example, an injury that took a long time to heal,
Mhm.
or even if you had to work a job you hate.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. Two different things.
But
Emotional pain, physical pain.
yeah.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can use them both
Mm-hmm.
to guide your experience.
Yeah. And possibly strengthen one of those areas might be able to translate over to the other, especially considering there are a few hours you're going to wind up under the needle if you're going to go get a tattoo. There's some opportunities to start practicing that.
Absolutely. Especially if you're working on a large piece like you, right? Each session will be different. By the end, you have this whole list of experiences to pull from. Be like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Next time I go in, I'm just going to think it's going to be the worst experience of my life. And then when it's not, you're like, oh, fantastic.
Do you have like a checklist that you've written of things that you passed out to your future clients?
No.
Here's your pain management techniques. Bring a squeezy toy.
Nope.
Have some headphones.
Oh, so in that first 5 minutes is when I know kind of how I'm going to have to steer this process.
Yeah.
hmm
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you talk a lot with your clients as well. Do you call them clients, right? Not
Clients,
subjects,
customers,
customers.
friends, whatever.
Yeah.
All the above.
Yeah. So, do you actually make suggestions with them? You interact with that process?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I have a little spiel. Um, I usually just talk about breathing. I'll say, we take a nice deep breath before we'll start on an exhale. Nice, slow, strong exhale. If I'm still tattooing, when that breath is gone, take another nice deep breath in. Okay.
Oh,
And then we do that a few times. So I'll have it in, and on the exhale, we'll start. For whatever reason, it's easier to deal with the pain on an exhale than it is on an inhale. So I'll try to start by getting that person into a rhythm straight out the gate.
mm-hmm.
hmm
Yeah. That sounds smart. That makes me want to also get tattooed by you. Speaking of getting tattooed by you, how
Yeah.
do people find you? Do you have a website? Where are you reachable?
Yeah. So Wholehearted Tattoo in Monterey, California. They have a really great website. There is a section on there where you can contact me directly with your ideas. You can send reference, you can send the email, and we can get in contact that way. Yeah.
Great. And then also, you are on Instagram. Can you be reached
I
through your Instagram
can
profile?
be reached through my Instagram profile. Yes, that's another excellent way to contact me inquiring about tattoos.
All right.
hmm
Well, great. Thank you so much for today.
My pleasure.
Yeah, and as far as this series goes, I'll be wrapping it up tomorrow with some thoughts about proprioceptive mapping and other vagal nerve toning exercises. Thanks everyone for joining us. Have a great day.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.